Hey guys, it's Quickie Baby, bringing you a review of the Caernarvon, which is the Tier 8 British heavy tank. You can see it situated here in the tree. It is after the Black Prince and before the Conqueror, and it plays fairly similarly to the Black Prince, but I can tell you that it's a hell of a lot quicker than the Black Prince. That's the main difference immediately from this tank, and also that it's a lot more flexible. I would consider it to be similar to a medium tank, just with better all-round armor than a medium tank of its tier, and also a 20-pounder that you can see here with fantastic aim time of 1.9 seconds, punchy accuracy of 0.32 so you can hit the shots when it matters, great penetration of 226 millimeters with an okay rate of fire of 7.69 for its 230 alpha damage. Now its frontal armor is 130 millimeters, as we can see clearly here. You don't want to angle it too much because we can see that its side armor is only 51. So if you give this, then really this is just guaranteed pen. So you want to angle it about here unless you can come round a corner and protect most of your side, which is very, very, very vulnerable. When you're engaging a Caernarvon, you should really try and get its flank. The frontal turret armor is 165, so unless you can snipe the tiny little cupola hatch on top, then or you have a high penetration gun and you're able to hit outside of the mantle, then you're in for a lot of trouble. Don't try shooting these side bits here, they don't count. A lot of people will try and shoot these and just waste their ammunition. Side of the turret, however, is very large and is an easy penetrating shot, and the rear of this tank is easily penetrable with HE rounds of a caliber of about 100 millimeters plus, so use that to your advantage. The side armor also, as I mentioned, is trash. 51 millimeters will hardly take anything. So you want to angle this tank about like this, and hopefully maybe your tracks will absorb most of the damage, and you still need to angle your 130 millimeters of frontal armor to be able to get a bounce. If they hit the upper plate, it will generally bounce. The lower plate isn't angled quite as well, but if they're very close to you and they're aiming down on it, it's quite troll. If you're engaging an enemy tank in a Caernarvon, then really it's quite good to get up close and personal with them and just bully them. And you've got the gun depression to aim down onto their armor, whereas maybe they'll be forced to shoot here and above, which is quite hard to penetrate on a Caernarvon tier for tier. So, what other strengths does this tank have? It's got 400 meters view range, which is significantly better than at least the Russian tier 8s. Its turret traverse is fairly good with 36. Its top speed is 35. Its traverse is 24 degrees, which is okay. That's enough. That's all we need. I really, really like this tank, guys. I'm going to show you how I got my mastery badge in this in the gameplay coming up. So here we go. Let's see our gameplay in the Caernarvon. Just going to fast forward a little bit through the beginning of the game. To explain what I'm thinking at the moment, I see that we've got an equal number of our team going down into the valley on the east. We've got a couple of people defending the bridge in the middle of the map, and we've got a fairly good amount of people going to the west to defend that corridor. Now my favourite location on this map to start the game off with is this corner. As you're going to see, I put some kind of effective fire off. We can see the quick aim time. I unfortunately missed the 5100. I could have got an easy first shot on the Tiger, but I wanted to shoot the 5100 first. Unfortunately, our shot goes a little high and hits the Tiger in his mantle, which fails to penetrate. Our second shell slams into his frontal armor, penetrating for a fairly high roll. Unfortunately, our gunner's a bit off today, hitting the rock instead of the Jagdpanther. There we can see another nice roll on the Tiger. So one thing I will point out, guys, is you can see here the ridiculous aim time of using the 20-pounder on the Caernarvon. You could go backwards, forwards as soon as you shoot, and you only have to aim for literally a second or two before you can fire again. Now the penetration on this gun is excellent for a tier 8 heavy, on par with the KV4, the Tiger 2, and the IS-3 226. And the aim time and the accuracy of the gun allows you to make punchy shots like this on the Jagdpanther. So we're quite fortunate that the enemies are wanting to duke it out with us. And we can see angled at 45 degrees that the frontal armor on the Caernarvon is quite troll. Fortunately our shell goes a little low there on the T32. On the T34 too, I should say. And I take a blind fire at him knowing he was still in that position, and it flies true. So now we know there's a Tiger and a T34-2, both on one shot. And I noticed right now that there are type crossing the bridge. As you can see here, I'm looking at him. And I think there's not really much more point in engaging that Tiger and the T34-2. I didn't think they were going to come and do anything more. They're both only with one shot remaining. And I thought that my best opportunity would be to try and hold this mid-ridge, and also to be shooting down on the opponents that you can see to the northeast. So a Tiger 2 just got spotted for the first time in the middle of the map. I'll keep my eyes out for him later. I'm going to speed it up just a second here until we get into position. And here we can see the IS-3 has not noticed me. I decide to shoot the Super Pershing in the side of the turret first. Penetration on this IS-3 is not guaranteed. But thankfully having an accurate gun and 226mm of penetration allows us to put most of our shells in. Unfortunately that shell went really low on that Super Pershing there. There we can see the excellent aim time of this tank allows us to literally poke the corners really hard. And that's my kind of gameplay, it's my kind of style of gameplay, is backwards, forwards, poke the corners. Try and avoid the fire, make the enemy miss, and make your hits effective. And angled well there, we could see that the Super Pershing was unable to hit the front of our tank. And we ended up doing 820 damage to that IS-3 fairly quickly. I aim for his cupola, and it just goes slightly high and misses. The game's fairly even at the moment. Let's try and turn it around. There we have the top of his tank. We make the shot happen. We get hit by the Hummel in the track. This tank takes artillery shells quite well frontally, but if they're able to hit the back of your tank or the sides of your tank, then HE damage can do a lot to this Tier 8 British heavy tank. So we've got the Tiger 2 on his side here. He's not angling his armor very well at all, and we're able to put a clean shell into the side of his tank. He misses, so I know that I'm safe. Put another shell flush into the side of his tank with some poor angling by the opposition. He takes out our gunner, but we're able to put another shell into him, and unfortunately the Hummel hits my driver here. I don't have a repair pack anymore, or a med pack I should say, for my gunner. And so now we're pretty much stuck. With a dead driver, most tanks in the game are very slow, especially the Caernarvon. Here we can see there's a 5100 trying to retreat to defend the base. We're able to put our first shot into him. And then what you're seeing me here do is reverse, because I want to give myself the most time, the most possible time, to be able to put the second shot in, which we do. So always be thinking about that you might have to adjust your position to give yourself the longest time that you can to get the second shot in. And when you've got amazing aim time like you do with the British 20-pounder, then you don't really have to aim for too much, which allows you to be mobile. Quite a few replays that I've had in the Caernarvon, I'm literally firing on the move over and over and over again. And there we have it. That's the end of the game. So here we can see the post-game stats that we got in that game in the Caernarvon. We got a Confederate medal, and we got nearly 4,000 experience for our double, which was enough to get our mastery badge. So that's the kind of total that you need to get roughly if you want a mastery badge at the Caernarvon. We managed to do 4,400 damage, which was a fairly good amount. I showcased really the accurate, punchy nature of this gun, which can perform very well if it gets a matchup such as I did. And also it can perform very well against Tier 9 heavy tanks, and even pose a threat to some Tier 10 tanks. I really like the Caernarvon. I'm going to be keeping it even when I get my Conqueror, which I'm fairly close to getting, so expect a review on that soon. I think the Caernarvon, the main thing is it's got gun depression, it's got accuracy, it's got low aim time, it's got high penetration. That's why I like it. Its frontal armor is enough. Its frontal armor is enough. It control quite well. If you go really close to the enemy, you can aim down on their frontal armor. then you can have the advantage over them, because they have to shoot you in the turret. Really, I'm all for gun depression, guys, and that's why I think the Caernarvon is one of my favourite tier 8 heavy tanks. When you compare it to the T32, it's just completely different. It's almost like the aim time on the T32 add a little bit of penetration, which is fantastic. The difference between the 200mm penetration and the 226mm penetration you get is the difference between the T32 and the IS-3 for punching through armor. It's quite a lot, and it makes a big difference, because I think that the game is trying to balance quite a lot around a 200mm gun penetration values. The Caernarvon lacks alpha damage, so you need to play it quite aggressively. You can't afford to trade shots with an IS-3, for example. If the IS-3 shoots you, you have to shoot him twice, and if you do that, then you will come out on top in the end. Avoid taking side shots and avoid leaving your rear exposed, and you're going to do really well in this tank, and I fully recommend it, and I will be keeping it. And you guys should know that I only generally keep tanks that I feel can carry and are good performers tier for tier. So as always, guys, thanks a lot for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll catch you soon.